19. So coronavirus disease 19.
Aha. Okay. So it doesn't mean.
Is that
So
what
I
you
was
said,
right.
Landon?
Coronavirus identification 19. That was my
Yeah.
I saw on
Eh.
Close enough.
I saw on Facebook.
general idea.
I saw on Facebook, Jacob, that it meant Christ over infectious or viruses and infectious diseases. That's what I read.
That is
Stay
is
off
correct.
Facebook, guys. Just stay off Facebook.
It's not that it's fine that anyway.
This
Involve
is your
the
brain on
science too.
Facebook.
All right, so that deep baritone, wonderful voice you hear is our good buddy Lando out in Seattle, in what we can blame safely as the cause of all this.
Yes, it's Seattle.
It is our fault. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Lando, you want to drive us forward to into this this abyss that we're about to head down?
Sure. So, just a quick recap. There's a global pandemic, and a virus is sweeping across our world. Almost overnight, society has changed. So now we're all in isolation, and suddenly we all have a lot more free time on our hands to think about all sorts of things. Will my family survive? Which pet do I eat first? Will I ever see the outside again? So, if you haven't considered these questions yet, you will soon. Trust me. The good news is that we'll have plenty of time to occupy our mind with these and many other questions. And I will be here with you, your personal guide on this journey and this descent into chaos. So, thank you for joining me in staring at goats.
Yes.
Nice.
We shall stare at some goats as a little bit. You know, if you've got a goat, look at it. Think about what it might taste like. But also remember, it provides cheese, and you need that. It's clearly, as I've seen at the grocery store, cheese is a requirement to surviving the apocalypse because there isn't much. But hey,
Meat, milk, cheese, we've got it all.
but yeah, you got Lando out there on the farm is the DIY economy personified. He's doing it himself. So I did want to recap with you guys this week. Since I figure we're doing this show every single week, we're likely to see huge changes in numbers regarding the infectious disease rate. How much is out there? How many deaths have been caused? Not to get morbid, but I mean these are facts of life that I think we need to be aware of. So let's do a rundown.
This is the new world we live in.
Yeah, so let's do a rundown of today. Jacob, do you want to take us through the numbers?
I can. I just don't know where the information came from. That's the problem.
So
if it came from the CDC or the WHO.
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
Well, that's where it came from.
So WHO reports the current number of cases at just over 375,000. The number of deaths out of that 375,000 is set at 16,362 currently. In the United States, the CDC is reporting roughly 45,000 cases. And of those 45,000, 544 deaths. They have not given any information on how many have recovered versus how many are still in critical condition versus how many are in non-critical condition. And this also doesn't include people that either one haven't been tested and are showing symptoms or anything else. This is just what is tested positive.
Yeah, we're looking at like a growth rate too. I looked at the chart on the CDC this morning. The last 2 days have grown 10,000 cases a day. What is the keyword?
Exponential.
Yo.
Word of the week.
Word of the day.
I'm not
Everybody
sure
wave
it's
their
at
hands.
exponential growth. It
Yeah.
may be at exponential growth, but at one point it was just doubling every day. But it wasn't like a hockey stick where you're seeing, what you hope that your retirement does, where you start out low and then you end up, way up high. No, I don't.
Or the
think
opposite of what it is right now, where it was a little bit high and now it's real low. But
yeah, that's very true.
Hey, but we're not retiring right now.
But you're
At least
right.
we're not planning on it.
Yeah, you are right though. It is growing really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked and it was 10,000. So like 2 days ago, there were 33,000 or 22,000 reported cases. The next day it was like 33 and then it's 42. And some of this I've been following. So I live in the Triangle area of North Carolina. And what I'm finding is there's a senator out there from Mecklenburg County, Charlotte, who has been posting on Reddit, reddit.com, our triangle. And he has been filling us in with some glorious data on like this is what happening. This is the state of the state. This is how many ventilators we got. This is
Oh,
where the
that's cool.
testing is coming from. This is what tests are. There's the test that you swab your tongue with, and then there's the reagent needed to find out if that test is positive, and where those two materials are coming from, and where the shortages are. It's really, he's doing a very good job of keeping us all up to date on everything. But he's also said that a lot of these numbers are related to testing amounts. It's like people getting tested. If they're not tested, you cannot include that in the numbers, right?
Yep.
That is very true.
Yeah, so we're finding
I,
There's
ourselves
so
in that
little
space.
testing being done, even still, weeks later,
Yeah.
we have no idea what's happening. The only thing I know is that out here, hospitals are not in the best shape. Things are starting to fill up, and I mean, that's a lot of the country, I'm sure, but yeah, it's not the best.
so And what's interesting about the testing is that here, actually, in the Triangle, because I'm also located in the Triangle, we've actually pivot from testing every potential opportunity we can to encouraging people, if they are are showing symptoms, to lay low, ride it out, self quarantine. If you get bad enough, call your medical your physician or some your medical care, and then seek medical care. They're not even encouraging people to test anymore.
Yeah,
So I think that's pretty interesting. Is that I think we've pivoted away from the gross number of tests and just assuming that you everybody's going to get it.
Yeah.
yeah. At this point, it's just that simple.
Yeah, I mean, so today I
So
watched a YouTube
now we
video.
see.
I'm sorry, one last thing. Before today I watched a YouTube
Oh no,
video,
it's fine.
a PSA from a doctor on how to unpack groceries. And I have not been that paranoid about groceries until I watched this video,
Yeah.
and now it's wrecked me. And I'm like, I don't know, like, oh my gosh, we're already
This is
contaminated.
the new world we live in. That's
Yeah,
when it really starts to
Right.
set in, I think.
yeah. So it's
So,
struggling.
Steven, what were his recommendations for whenever you unpack groceries?
It was a 15-minute video, Jacob. I'm a millennial. I ain't got time for 15-minute videos. But what he did show was that he had a clean countertop. He had the groceries brought in. They were set on a certain spot. The groceries were removed from the bag, wiped with a Clorox wipe, put on the clean countertop, and then like just systematically moved. He actually recommended taking
Yeah,
bread out of
I've
the
heard a
plastic.
lot of people doing that.
Yeah, he recommended taking bread out of the package and putting it into a clean container that you know that you own. He said don't take your bags to Trader Joe's. You want to take your own bags, but he's like don't take it because you're contaminating the bag that you brought from your home and you're making it dirty again. If you did take your own
Oh
bag,
shit! I didn't even
Yeah.
think of that. That is
yeah,
brilliant. I carry my bags everywhere. That's what I do, and actually, that's hadn't even thought about it that way.
yeah, he's like just don't take them if you can avoid it. If your store has, you
Huh.
have to take them, like in New Mexico and some other states that have removed plastic bags from stores. Like you just
California.
yeah, you can take them, but then leave them outside. Remove the groceries out there, wipe them off, take them inside.
Yeah.
And when you're talking,
As far as I know, all the grocery stores out here will not let you bring in any of your own bags anymore. They
yeah,
basically tell you, don't bring them in. You get plastic, paper, whatever we have, but we're not touching your nasty bags.
you filthy people. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah,
Unclean.
we can move on to the next thing. This
Just like that.
Listen, horseshoes and hand grenades contains all the sounds, and I haven't got new sounds yet. So this is a glorified, targeted horseshoes and hand grenades in terms of sound available to me. So just roll with it, fellas. It's episode 2.
Bear with us. We'll get it right.
What?
I don't know who is going to go next.
I got you wine.
Steven, you want to do the round table?
Sorry.
I will. I kind of
I could do the round table.
do the
My
Sorry,
name
round.
is
folks.
Jacob.
Small
I need
distraction.
to introduce myself. I am Jacob. I am about to be a dad. I am a scientist, and I am drinking. Here, let me pull it up. A Black Mamba oatmeal stout from Aviator. It's actually really tasty. I figured it's cold for the last week, so why not enjoy a last minute stout before it gets warm again? The things
Might
that
be
are
the
on
last
my
chance you
mind. I know, right? The things that are on my mind this week. So, holy crap, I am becoming a dad, and in New York, they are actually banning spouses and support people and doulas from actually being in the hospital to watch their child be delivered and to help with the delivery. The only one that's allowed in some of these hospitals is just the mother now. So essentially, um, I could be in a situation where I drop my wife off at the hospital and 72 hours later get a phone call saying, come pick me up. And I go and pick up her and Tater Tot. So holy
Yeah.
crap, I'm about to become a father and not be there for the birth of my son, which would really, really suck. And then on top of that, we've been getting stuff on our front doorstep delivered because, of course, we're having a baby. So, of course, we get a lot of stuff these days to try to get us prepared. And every one of those packages come from some distribution house, whether it's Amazon or whether it's another distribution house. And 8 employees for Amazon have now tested positive for coronavirus in these warehouses, the ones who are
Yep.
touching your packages. And this has been proven to live on cardboard. So corrugated cardboard, it has been proven to live for a certain amount of time. So what do I do with packages whenever I receive them? How do I actually receive packages now? I mean, if you can't trust the packages that you're bringing into your home, you've got to you got to switch things up. And finally, the last thing that's on my mind, I hate Democrats. I hate Republicans. I hate them all. I am now thoroughly convinced of my political leanings, and it's neither one of them. They're both awful scumbag human beings. The Democrats are trying to usurp the discussions and try to squeeze some things in under this guise of this coronavirus just to make, advance their own policies. The Republicans are playing dirty politics as well. It's just awful. Listening to this whole discussion about the stimulus bill this week was an absolute train wreck. All of these senators and congresspeople deserve butt warts. Period.
This is the new society we live in, and these are the new people that run the society. It's really a shame that we don't have
these are
any
the old
real
people.
leadership.
These are the old
Yep.
people showing just showing their true colors amidst a crisis rather than handling the crisis. And it's all bullcrap. It always has been. It's just it tends to be a lot more ugly in the face of, well, we know how to solve it. Well, we know how to solve it. None of it really solves it. So
It does feel exaggerated, but the exaggeration is real. I mean, it's just awful. So I'm looking at this going, yeah, sure, I may be left leaning in some areas where we're talking about social policy, and I may be right leaning whenever you talk about fiscal conservativeness, because I believe that, if we don't have the money, we can't spend it. But I'm looking at this going, neither one of these parties are good. Nobody in these parties are good. They're all awful human beings. And even the young ones
Yeah.
who are supposed to be these bright beacons of awesome that are going to lead us into the future are fucking scumbags. Sorry.
I'm
I
gonna need a
apologize.
swear
It's
jar.
okay. Don't
I know.
apologize. This is literally the end of the world, and if you're not upset now, you might not get a chance to ever be upset again. Now, that's not to say that we should have, just dark and unoptimistic viewpoints on where we think the world is headed.
Correct.
But let's be honest,
Correct.
if you're ever going to get mad, now's the time.
That's right.
I just hope that more people share that same mindset because this is a problem. This is a big. I don't want to have to deal with the reality that my wife may get sick in the months to come, where she'll be pretty much endlessly dealing with all sorts of sick and infectious people. She shouldn't have to go through that. But we have no real government leading us away from this, so it's going to happen. We're going to know people that die. Some people may already. But hey, at the end of the day, the world keeps spinning, and that's just as simple as that.
Well, so speaking of, what was the thing that Trump came out and said that the specific chemical was going to cure all the things, and a dude out in Arizona or somewhere went and bought
Oh
the
God.
chemical and like took a whole
So
bunch of it, and ended up killing himself.
that story was a little conflated, as all stories are. There's a little hype behind that. So the hydroxychloroquine is what he said,
Yeah,
and
correct.
I believe there was a little bit of truth in that grand statement. However, it was pitched as basically a miracle fluid, and that from him, not a doctor, good businessman or whatever, if you want to say that, if you feel like it. But he was a businessman telling you to drink hydroxychloroquine or take it, and that's good. Those people found a bottle of some, I can't remember the substance. It was some sort of thing you wouldn't drink unless you were a 2 year old and you found it in the medicine cabinet or under the sink. And they took
Yeah, I
that.
thought it was for aquariums. I
Yeah,
thought
it
it was for
was.
Yeah,
It
something
was.
associated
aquarium
with
cleaner of some sort.
Yeah, they drank something not good that shouldn't even been confused for a drug.
Yeah,
Um,
why would you do that?
right. So that I want to give a little bit of context around that because it makes it sound like they went to the pharmacy and got themselves some hydroxychloroquine and took it and died. But that's
Yeah.
not the case. They did take something that has a chemical or the material or whatever in it, but it wasn't a medicine. It was a cleaner of some kind. Yeah, you can get it from
You
fishy
know,
places. Thank you, H&H
it's
Show.
just ridiculous though that somebody went and killed themselves doing something like that because they listened to the leader of the country.
It's fear, man. It's fear makes people do
But
insane things.
yeah, on the upside, it makes for a good story. And let's be honest, that's really what this world is all about.
You're not kidding.
So I will laugh at his misfortune.
That's terrible. I've made it a rule not to laugh at people's misfortune on the show, except unless it's because they got drunk and fell off a wagon.
Wow. Yeah. There's rules and limitations, of
Yeah,
course,
sure,
but
sure, sure,
just in
sure.
general.
Yeah, yeah. And he didn't tell people to run out and take. He just said we have a promising thing that
That's
will work. So I call a spade a spade. Sure, the guy says a lot of outlandish, horrible things, but let's call the outlandish, horrible things when we see them, and not grab a hold of the non-radical, insane things and act like they are. I think that's important in a time like this. And Jacob has taught me much of this over our many conversations for the past 3.5 years. Like, yes, sometimes a broke clock is right, and you just got to be okay with it being right that one time. Don't fight to make it wrong, even when it's saying. Anyway, I've said enough about this. Lando, where you at?
Yeah, where are you at?
I am well, where am I? I'm in Woodby. So let's
Missed.
change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Instead of talking about politics, instead of talking about all this, I don't know, depressing stuff, let's say, let's talk about something fun in the world. What do you
Good.
think?
I think that's a positive. I think we can do that.
So, are we going to start with good news or bad news first?
No,
I say
so
fun. Everything here is fun. Or do
so
we want to start
Oh
somewhere
wait, are
else?
we
The
gonna finish
world
up
is
the
our
news or
oyster.
I was
introduction?
was gonna let him talk about himself, but he wanted to go to the
Yeah.
news, and I was gonna ride
Wait,
that wagon with
I
him.
don't
what are we doing?
You have this thing talking about the West Coast being locked down written in the notes, and that's where I thought you were gonna go at the top,
The next part of the
No.
news.
the round table.
Well, that would be a great topic. I just skipped right over it. You know what? Let's talk about that.
We're
So,
so good at this game.
a whole hold on, husband. We're 48 hours now. Yeah, we're a whole 48 hours into our official Washington State lockdown. The rest of the West has been locked down for close to a week now, but I guess we were the last to follow suit. Uh, I guess over the weekend, a bunch of people, well, literally the whole state went out and started hiking because it's pretty weather out, and that upset a bunch of people, and the government basically locked us down. So we're all in this together at this point. But I guess at this point, all of the panic and hysteria has started to calm down a little bit out, and really we're just kind of watching it play out now. The first big wave of patients finally began to roll in about a week ago, 5 days now, and the first batch of young patients have started coming in and being very sick and so it's interesting watching how out here, at least the progression I've seen so far, everyone is locked down, and for the most part, over the past couple of days, everyone's kind of slowed down, and I think seems to be staying at home a little more. But depending on how bad cases get out here in the next day or two, none of it may matter at this point. We're basically just waiting to see are we going to get a bunch of patients coming in that are really, really sick to the point that it overwhelms us, or is it going to be to the point that it's manageable? So I guess just out here, it kind of over the past 3 or 4 days, 2 or 3 days at least, everything just kind of got real, if you will. It's kind of set in, and we're in it for the long run at this point.
Yeah.
So that is where the West Coast stands. I guess there's a medical ship headed to Los Angeles. San Francisco has been in lockdown even further than us, and they're having a lot more problems from what I can tell. I'm hoping that the Seattle and Greater Washington Northwest area is not going to be hit as hard, but I don't know. Things have,
Yeah.
it's changing day by day, but I know a few
Mhm.
friends in Portland that are sick, and yeah, it's real out here now. I will say that.
Yeah, no, it sounds that's pretty bad. Well, thank you for the update over there, Lando. What you got going on
Yeah,
over
that is
here?
the West Coast update.
Over here, like I mean, it's as far as North Carolina goes, our area is probably second, I think, to Charlotte in terms of cases. I don't know that
Yeah,
for sure. Jacob, are you? Is
It
that
is.
pretty much
It's
the
Wake
case?
County
it will
second.
be.
Yeah,
Mecklenburg is the top, and Wake County second.
yeah. So we're the second in line, and we're just now like we've been waiting for like 3 or 4 days for the hammer to drop on the shelter at home ordinance just to get everybody to stop moving. To be fair, I've driven around
Yeah.
a little bit, and people are doing a pretty dang good job of sheltering. Even though there hasn't been a mandate for it, which I think is probably the reason there hasn't been a mandate, is that overall the movement of people has slowed significantly even without it, because we're in a very well educated area in this side of North Carolina. You throw a rock 30 miles either direction, and you're in a place where it might be a little bit more.
Like
I'll die.
6 universities.
Yeah, here it's fine, but out there it's like I'll die with my boots on. F this disease. But here everybody's much more like in tune with the science of it to some degree. I think it's probably safe to say. But tomorrow it looks like I think the stay at home measure is going to happen for our county. I know Durham County's already called it. They called it yesterday, so we're likely to follow suit. So the gates of Durham have shut. So everyone's
Yes.
Durham survival kit is necessary now. But no,
That's a
it's
scary thought.
yeah. So over here, I mean, I think optimism is still there. A lot of people are doing a lot of good to help. I've seen an enormous amount of posts asking for food at food banks and food pantries and money and charity, and it seems like that's coming in still. Which I think is huge. I know we've had friends driving by. We've sat some stuff on our porch, like for them to pick up and take somewhere. Like just people calling us, like if you have anything, sit on your porch. I'll swing by, grab it, and drive it to the donate places. So it's been really good for that so far. I have some concerns about when the ability to give doesn't keep up with the need that people have. That's a
Yeah.
heavy concern, because right now we can give and we can help as a community, and that's been really cool to see. But at some point, like
Another few weeks,
yeah,
months.
as paycheck to
And we
paycheck
talked about
America
this.
reveals itself,
Yep.
Yeah.
what's going to happen?
Well, and yeah, we talked about this last week. How much
Mhm.
runway do we really have with altruism? And I think it just depends on how many people lose their jobs and at what rate
Yeah.
people lose their jobs. When the disposable income is gone and people are actually relying on their savings to survive, all of a sudden that charity is going to be a lot less. And where people are going to start thinking about what their donations are and whether or not they can use that money for something in the house. And that's whenever I think we're going to start really seeing some interesting things play out around.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's get on to the world news, fellas.
Yep.
Did that just stop mid?
That was
That. What happened?
it was much louder than I expected it to be. Whoops.
So who wants to do the world news? Let's Lando, right?
I'll take one. We can alternate. We got
Tell
four
you what,
stories, but
Yep. Someone take the first one. I'm gonna step away for 2 seconds and grab a refill. I will be right
Okay.
back.
Get more
I
drunk.
need to plan
Nice.
for this better next time. I need to get a little, what do you call it, a little mini fridge, stick it under here. I don't know. How does that work? I don't understand. Excuse me. I don't understand necessarily the what do you call it? Podcast etiquette. If how do you handle getting another? Do you just
You
go? Do
don't
I make excuse?
normally. You usually just have a
Bring the beer with me to begin with.
yeah. If you got 3 people, it's not as big of a deal. If it's just you and one other person, you bring an extra one in a koozie.
Well, yeah. No, that would be different. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. I don't
I'm
know.
not
There
Larry
was this
King
one.
getting up to walk to the bathroom in the middle of an interview.
There
Although
was this
sometimes I
wonderful
feel
invention a few years back. It was called a koozie. It wraps around your beer and it keeps it nice and cool.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, but I'm not that old yet.
You need a
I mean, I'm
revolutionary
drinking.
Tell you,
koozie.
let's reevaluate that in another 20 years.
I'm drinking my water out of a Yeti cup, so that's me right now. Yeti
Hey, I
mug.
got a Yeti cup here too.
Yeah, courtesy of my
They're
dad.
solid.
My dad gave me this one. Non-Destructive Inspection Services Incorporated of Hurricane, West Virginia. There's your promo.
Hurricane.
It is. It's
What? Where the hell did he get that?
from Non-Destructive Inspection Services
From
Incorporated in Hurricane, West Virginia.
Do it.
Go get your drink. I'm gonna read about Prince Charles. So, Prince Charles, you may know him as the royal Prince Charles, not just a guy named Prince Charles. He's 71 and he just tested positive for COVID-19. This
Sorry.
this is coming off the heels of an earlier story this week. I think one of the Queen's close assistants had been confirmed positive, and they were like, "Oh no, the Queen!" And then like a day later, it's like, "Oh, Prince Charles freaking has it." My question and what I'm interested in, like in America, we don't have royals. We seem to want them as much as People Magazine covers them, but we don't have them. They're not that important to us. We actually fought an entire war not to care about them, yet we care about them a
That's true.
whole big lot. But I think it's because we're friends with the Brits and we care about the Brits. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering, like, in a world, so Prince Charles, everyone's been always joking, like he's never going to be king. His mom's going to outlive him. Is that
Which is
what-
probably true.
what's the
Yeah.
what's the possibility? I can see, like, at this point, Prince Charles is so unlucky. His mom could get COVID and make it, and he would still be toast. And everyone would just be like, well, figures. If something like this happens and like this virus takes out 1-2 members of the royal family, what does that do to the UK in terms of morale? There's an awful lot of appreciation in Australia as well, because they're part of the Commonwealth, and they still look to the Queen and the royal family to some degree, even though a lot of them don't want to. They do. I don't know that any of us have any way to talk about this because none of us are British, but I'm just curious what that effect might be on that culture
I
and
think
economy.
you'd be hard pressed to find another single person or family, especially in the world, that is more well known than the UK royals. But I I think in the end, something like that obviously will not be a huge deal, given how little political influence they have. But you're right, the morale, they're the British royal. Anything that happens to any of them will be major news. They're huge in every other country in the world, basically. Kind of like soccer. Outside the United States, the rest of the world runs on soccer.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Royals. Outside of the US, everyone loves listening and hearing about the royal family for whatever reason. I don't claim to understand it, but I have seen that everywhere I've ever gone.
Yeah. I'd be
And
interested if we had
that'll be huge.
yeah.
But Lando, even though they lack political clout or even political influence, they still are figureheads of Britain and
Oh, exactly.
and
No,
they're
not to
figureheads of
discount
the
that at all.
world, South Africa and Australia and other places, and they do so much charitable work. And they do the reason why I think the world has some of the major pushes for whatever it may be, whether it's water in Africa or whatever it may be. Yeah, it can come from things like money, like Bill Gates, but it also comes from influence, like Prince
Oh
Charles
yeah.
and the other royals. And I think that's why this whole Harry debacle had pissed off the Queen so much, is because she saw him as one of those figureheads that was leading the charge on some of these unbelievably crucial issues that were important to them. And so if something were to happen to them, the world would suffer.
Yeah. I agree with you to that extent. That's the part where I guess in my head it's not technically anything that changes anyone's day-to-day lives, let's say.
Fair enough.
People are going to still keep going into work, that's but I totally agree that just from the social and what do you call it, that aspect, just simply your social lives. Like I said, everyone knows that family, and yes, I completely agree that would be devastating. Like I said, there's just no other well-known family that well known in the world. That's number one. That would be huge. Let's
It would
hope
be a shock.
that
Yeah.
something doesn't happen. I mean, I'm not advocating for anybody to get sick and suffer, but you know, let's hope that we can keep our case in point, Arnold Schwarzenegger. If something were to happen to him, in my opinion, that would be like my most personal devastating loss.
Yeah.
Okay.
Outside of like a family
Just throwing
member,
it
I
out
would
there,
guess. Yeah.
yeah.
No,
I
including
mean,
family
but for the
members.
rest of the world, that's pretty much the Royals. That level
Yeah.
of personal attachment.
For me, it was Tom Hanks. When I've heard he had it, I was like, oh,
Oh
please.
yeah.
Please, Lord, don't let Tom Hanks go. He's too special. He's too important. He's the best of us right now, in the public
Yeah,
eye,
he is
anyway.
a good human being.
I was like,
Honestly, as soon as I heard about that originally, I started thinking about you. I was like, oh no, Steven's gonna be sweating.
yeah, he's easily my favorite actor in the world, and a lot of that is due to just being the person he is. And
Yeah.
I think that would just be tragic. But no, I would be pretty upset if Arnold Schwarzenegger had to got it and it took him out. I mean, geez, he's the Terminator. But we can work
That's
on the
right.
Deadpool another week. That feels like
Yeah.
something that we might want
Oh.
want to skip. But yeah, I hate to. I don't know. I don't like to think about it, man. I'm just gonna pretend
know,
that
yeah,
none
let's-
of these people, all them are gonna be in their 1,000 or 1 million square foot mansions in Beverly Hills, having their food delivered by a hazmat team, and we'll be good to go. Everybody's gonna make it, so we can still be entertained because that's what we need. It's what we needed in the Depression. It's what we need now. That sucks, dude. I just thought of this. I'm not gonna talk about it. I'll write it down for another time.
What? Okay.
I mean,
And
I
just
could,
like that.
I could talk about it, but I don't
Listen,
want to
you're on
drag
a
it out.
roll. Just talk about it.
Yeah,
So
you're on a roll.
so in the Great Depression, right? That was movies made money, because people went out to the movies if they did nothing else. If they ate half a bologna sandwich, they were going to go to a movie to take their minds off everything that was going on around them. We don't have that, man. We don't have that
Nope.
right now. We have no movie theater to escape into and to be in a dark room with other people just going, let's ignore what we're bringing the movie theater home, but it's not the same. It doesn't have that escapist feel that getting out to a theater has. But that just struck me all of a sudden, that the difference
What do
between
you?
those two economic disasters.
Yeah, what do you think we have though?
The
To
internet.
escape freaking video games.
Is it video games and Twitch streaming and the kind of social interaction that this kind of provides?
This is everything, man. Like, if I didn't have my work buddies to talk to, Zoom, the video conferencing lifted all their restrictions for amount of people in time for free.
Oh,
if,
really?
If it's your thing, freaking Pornhub Premium is free right now.
Yeah.
Like anything, there's so many options to entertain yourself at home or meet people at home. You're right, that is a decent replacement for it. It's just I wonder about movies and being able to make any money and come back strong out of this. But I got comments on that later. But yeah, this free World of Warcraft and Twitch, watching people play games. Animal Crossing couldn't come out at a better time.
Oh,
Doom,
yeah.
same thing. Like, it's Stephanie's been playing Animal Crossing every night and just smiling the whole time. And I'm like, hey, we're in our house
That-
right now.
Honestly,
We know
that's
we're not
the new
affected.
normal now. Like or excuse me, that's the new movie theater for this era, this generation, I think.
Yeah.
Granted, you don't want to be going out to a movie theater during a plague anyway. Very different from the Depression. That's the problem. We can't
Yeah.
just go out and socialize. Now, can you imagine if this was an economic depression plus some sort of major issue? That would be the worst. I
Yeah.
mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of inequality and all sorts of things right now that it's kind of borderline that. But at the very least, this didn't start with the economy collapsing first and then a plague coming along later. That would basically just wipe us out. At least we do have options.
Yeah.
I guess looking on the bright side, if you will.
For sure. Well,
I
we got
say that
another
in my
story.
ivory tower of being in a podcast with people. So.
Yeah, very good. Very true. I like to consider this an ivory tower. I'm fine with that. It's a good one for me.
Yeah. So,
Lando, you want to
next
read
up
the
on the
next story?
list. Yep. So, if governments aren't going to impose a curfew, then the Brazilian gangs and the favelas. So, in this case, different groups and regions around Brazil and Rio and I don't know, I guess all Brazil at this point for the most part is basically being ran by gangs, and the gangs are actually the ones enforcing the rules. For instance, an 8 p.m. curfew and actually giving people consequences and threatening them, saying that if the government won't do the right thing, organized crime will, which is just absolutely bizarre. But I guess looking at the bright side, at least someone is looking out for the greater society. If it's not going to be the government doing it, might as well be organized crime. I wonder if we'll see the same thing happening in Japan if there's ever some sort of situation there, the Yakuza stepping in and taking control. But
I mean,
either way, it's wild. This is the type of Wild West scenario that all of the world, I guess, is kind of going through to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting, though.
we.
So, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Jacob.
No, I was going to say I love this story because what it does is it says the local uh, residents are the ones who are being lifted up and empowered to actually take control of their local area once again. In the
Yep.
United States, we're having things like the stay at home mandates, right? And the federal government won't do it. So a lot of states are going and doing it, right? And if the states don't do it, then a lot of the counties are going and doing it. And if the counties won't do it, a lot of the cities and the mayors are implementing these. And so it's actually empowering a lot of these municipalities and towns here in the US, which in my mind I couldn't welcome anymore because I feel like
Yeah.
what's good in Boise is not necessarily good in New York City. And so let these municipalities actually decide what is best for them and let them actually do the things that are necessary for their area. I love it. I love the way the Brazilian gangs are taking this seriously. I love the way our municipalities are taking this seriously. I think it's a great thing.
At least someone is taking it seriously. Like honestly, that's I guess it's one of those things you see the headline, it's just like, oh my god, really? But when you actually start thinking about it for a minute, at least somebody out there gives a shit about somebody else. Even if it is organized crime in one of
Hmm.
the poorest, most destitute places on the planet. Like honestly, in my opinion, if the world is facing some sort of huge crisis like this, collectively, this is what you want to be seeing. I'm happy I'm seeing this headline instead of gangs trying to take over Brazil or something like that. They're
Yeah.
just simply enforcing the rules that governments aren't doing right now, which is just wild. That is the case to begin with.
I mean, this is what organized crime does. If you look back at Prohibition, organized crime said, well, if the government won't let us do what's right, we'll do it ourselves. So organized
Yeah.
crime became the liquor runners because, dagnabbit, people want to drink. And that's nothing wrong with that, government. You know what I mean? So they're like, they step in to correct wrongs. And it's pretty fascinating to me. Like, even some areas in cities now are ran by organized crime to some degree. I've heard stories from
Yeah.
friends, from people I know who are like, yeah, I remember this one guy, and he's like, you're safe now because I talked to you. And it's like, this isn't this is wild country we're living in, but it's not necessarily new. It's always kind of been there. It's just they've decided, okay, well, let's make ourselves known and let's take care of the people here. But I'm not. I mean, they're not gonna arrest people who walk out. They might just chop off a toe or something. So who knows?
Yeah.
You know, it's not like they or keep someone in a cage. They don't exactly have the high moral standard that police may have. Now, I don't know much about the legal system in Brazil, but I would like to believe that
I've heard stories.
the police are the ones that are generally like gonna due process and whatnot. Gangs don't have that. They just go, "You're outside and you shouldn't be. Let's
Yeah.
take care of this."
And I mean, honestly, so I'm really glad that you just made that point. I'm looking at our little notes here. We have the topic here talking about how that large of a group of people in that poor of a region, the level of sanitation, the level of personal cleanliness, there's nothing there. It's gonna this illness, any sort of disease, but especially something like this, will just sweep through there like wildfire.
Mhm.
And honestly, if it weren't for, well, I don't know, I guess that's the only big takeaway from this is that somebody is paying attention to that situation and recognizing that even though this is our group or so let's say, what do you call it? This is our turf. This is our our source of income. This is the people we're exploiting. Even they are recognizing that we can't let this happen. This will cost more than these random people's lives, which is really sad that certain governments are not taking that level of consideration. But like I said, I'm just happy to see that that is somebody somewhere is thinking about all of the poorest people in the world,
Yeah.
even if it is the criminals.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to be doing right now in this time. Hopefully, the rest of the criminals in the world are paying attention. I have a message for you, criminals. Please do help us.
No, that's a really good point, man. I don't care what the
Be
past
good
is.
criminals.
Just people loving people. Just
Yeah.
find a way, even if you're loving them by hating them. Just love them enough to get us through this.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to be said. It's nice to see people with who you would view as irredeemable in some cases coming out and being like, no, 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 we're gonna live through this, and I'm gonna help you in the way I help you. Only way I
Yeah,
know how.
exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well,
Talk about a silver lining, if there
n-
is one.
no joke.
That's right.
Speaking of silver linings,
Yes, that's right. Speaking of silver linings, Boober Eats, not Uber Eats, but Boober Eats. The Lucky Devil Lounge Strip Club is now delivering food via stripper. So I pulled up a news article just so I could read a little bit about this. So apparently, Lieutenant Brown, or excuse me, Governor Kate Brown announced that in Oregon that they would be shutting down all restaurants and bars. Their already dwindling economy because people weren't going out and getting lap dances and stage dances. So apparently, completely wiped out their economy at the strip club. So they brainstormed and figured out that they had a solution. They would then let's see, they were working on keeping their employees working. He joked that they would provide a service where the dancers would deliver food topless, topless food delivery. When customers started asking him if they would deliver in his area, I was like, "Holy shit, this may be something that actually works." He said. From that tweets, Boober Eats was born for a $30 delivery fee, a sum that is split between the club employees. Customers can order a burger and fries or a salad or a steak or a variety of dishes to their home where the dancers will show up accompanied by a driver and a security guard. Equipped with masks, gloves, hand sanitizers, the dancers will deliver their food to the customer's doorstep within the 6 feet guidelines established by the CDC. And they will do it naked. Well, boobless,
they would, yeah.
topless, not full on naked,
as
but
as legally naked as can be.
yeah, so that's true. Boober Eats,
This
guys. Boober Eats.
this story, I loved it. And condone or don't condone strip clubs and sex work, but these are people are enterprising and figuring out how to survive
Exactly.
this thing. And not only that, the guy who runs this place found jobs for everyone. He's found
Yep.
like the cooks are cooking, the bartenders who can't serve at the bar are answering phones and taking deliveries. The security guards are driving the trucks and delivering the food with the strippers who are taking it out there. They're tickled to death to be getting, probably good tips as well as paying that $30
Oh, yeah.
delivery fee. And they're delivering as far as the drivers are comfortable. He's like, how far out do you guys want to go? They're like, just tell us where we got to go. We'll take it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's.
And gas prices are dirt cheap. So
Yeah.
$1.98 will fill up
Yeah,
your
that's a benefit.
gas. So yeah, they're loving life right
Yeah, so there's gonna be I'll post the YouTube video in our show notes. It's semi NSFW, like there's no boobs actually there, but there's some pretty intense thongs going on.
now.
So
And then
if you,
there are some pictures with just pasties.
yeah,
So
But
you could see all the
Portland
boob, you just
pasties,
can't
yep.
see the nipple, the areola.
yeah, but these people are just trying to work, man, and I'm really happy that they could find a way to keep doing their job, whatever that job may be. You know, that they can keep making a paycheck, paying their rent. Homelessness is already bad, y'all. Like, and
Things like this are going to keep the economy going as it collapses around us.
small businesses may save the world. You know, like it's who knows what it could be, but
Basically.
yeah, it's pretty good. But moving right along with some kind of segue. That'll do. So this is our weird science section. We talk a little bit about where we're coming from in the science world, how things are going, what they're doing. I think Jacob, you can lead off with this stuff here.
Sure, I can. And so, a couple of things. So there's two different things that I kind of wanted to bring up today, at least for the group to talk about a little bit. First, there's the thought of testing. So how do we know who has it and identify the people that will need help? And then the second component is obviously getting help to the people that need help. So the testing aspect hasn't been really great. I mean, a lot of times they have to send the samples to a central lab, and once the central lab processes it, 4 or 5 days later, they then get back with either the physician who actually administered the test, or they get back to the actual patient themselves and say, yes, you have it, or no, you don't. So a lot of that's a long lead time. The FDA just approved Cepheid's 45-minute test. So within 45 minutes to an hour, you could potentially find out whether or not you have COVID 19. France is deploying that one as well. There are a couple other assays that are these 10-minute assays that we're also working on. The FDA has also got a lot of these other rapid tests that are coming up for central labs. For example, whenever you take a flu sample, right, you run it on a central lab, runs it on a specific piece of equipment. Well, are there tests for coronavirus that can run on this specific piece of equipment that are already in the labs? All they have to do is just switch a few settings. And so I think the FDA is kind of being inundated right now with these new ideas for new tests. So hopefully within the next few weeks, from a testing perspective, we'll actually have some really good tests that have high sensitivities, high specificities for coronavirus. And so stay tuned. The testing is one of the big bright spots of all of this, because the scientific community is really coming together and creating these awesome tests to actually tell whether or not these people have it. On the actual vaccine side, or on the treatment side, we're still a long ways away from that. I mean, obviously, there are other things like the malaria vaccine and some others that I think people are really touting. At the end of the day, if you're looking for a coronavirus specific vaccine, we're probably a good 9 months to 12 months out from having something available. It just takes that long to get through the
Minimum.
safety and toxicology, to get through the efficacy trials, to actually go through a review process, and then to ramp up manufacturing. 6 to 9 months at minimum for those trials, and then of course however long it takes to start manufacturing this. So to me, a good 12 months to 18 months is a pretty good timeline for this. There are ways to actually pull that in a little bit, especially if we already know some things about SIRS and MARS and other like diseases. But from a vaccine perspective, guys, it ain't happening quick unless somebody hits pay dirt with one of these other disease vaccines, which they may or may not. Who knows? Then you could just ramp up manufacturing quick. But the news on that side, a little less encouraging. I think it's great because let me rephrase that. It's very encouraging because I think we're learning a lot, and I think we're making tremendous advances really quickly. It's just when you're talking about this killing folks every single day, you're looking for something for an immediate stopgap, and we're not going to have that anytime soon.
Yeah, we're not breaking open smallpox blisters and rubbing them on people. Like that's not
That's right.
that's not the world we're in right now. But like I did hear some other encouraging news about the vaccine, and it was that they've observed that the virus has not mutated very wildly around. Like they're finding that it's pretty much staying the same.
Seemingly, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and That I think it has something to do with the type of virus it is. Like a flu virus mutates constantly because it's got different types of proteins floating around in it. The H1N number, H and N numbers is where that all comes from. It's all the flu, but it's just varied proteins all over the place. This thing is much different. It's much more the same as it goes from person to person to person. So it gives us a little better hope.
So,
yeah, it
real
could be
quick,
like the SARS
I just want to
virus, where-
interject. You mentioned H1N1. I read a really interesting story on this. What was it called? Wikipedia about the Spanish flu. So just real quick, so you mentioned H1N1. That is actually the Spanish flu, and the way they know that is that because in 1918, when a group of people, I think it was a village of 8 in somewhere deep Alaska, 78 of the 80 people there died.
Holy
They
crap.
buried those people in permafrost. Back in the 60s, 50s or 60s, the first scientist went there, undug a few bodies, attempted to retrieve the virus. He could not. But then back in 99, 2000, somewhere around, they went back to the same place, dug deeper, got samples that they could revive. So we actually know exactly what the Spanish flu is because it still exists in the bodies of people, and which to me is just really crazy. Sorry, you mentioned that a minute ago, and I was just like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing I've ever.
That's
I wanted to share.
that's an awesome little
On
anecdote.
a downside, you've got to incinerate bodies if you want to dispose of the virus. So just FYI.
Yeah, which takes us to our next point there.
Exactly. Which I think is a great segue. So, when this virus inevitably kills you, because as we all know, we're all gonna. How do you hope your corpse is disposed of? Assuming it's not straight to the incinerator. So, don't get me wrong, I am not posing this question as some, really sad, terrible type of question or story or whatever. The reason I mention it is because if you're not familiar with a process where you can take ashes of some basically you have someone cremated and you can turn their ashes into seeds or something like you can use the ashes to create a little shell that you can put around whatever seed type you want. Yes, you can be a tree. Damn right. So here's what I want to happen. If this damn virus kills me, whoever is out there listening, this is my living. You're about to hear it here live for the first time. Take my ashes and make seeds out of me and plant
seeds.
me somewhere.
What kind of
That's what I want to
seeds?
happen. I don't know. Well, okay. I actually have given that some thought. I want it to be a tree of some sort, mainly because a tree will, live a long time. However, I did think that if I want to be a real dick, I was going to be some sort of ivy. You plant me somewhere and I'm not going away, even if you want me. I think that would be hilarious. Like, what are those ivies that like dig into bricks and crush houses, like that sort of thing? Like, make me a billion seeds like that, and then go throw me in someone's backyard and come back in 5 years. Like that sort of thing is what I'm thinking.
Ivy is the most obnoxious of all things.
Exactly.
I have gotten rid of it. So
Yes,
come
you
at me,
have.
bro.
Come at me,
I
bro.
will.
Yeah.
So
Give me a
I
few
know-
weeks.
I know exactly how I want to be disposed of because this is how I want to be disposed of in however I go. It doesn't matter about coronavirus or not. If coronavirus takes me, I better go out this way. If old age takes me, I better go out this way. I want my wife to give me a Viking funeral where she puts me on
Yes.
a raft made
Yes.
of woods with big logs on top, and I'm laying on top of it, and there's straw underneath it and kindling and everything, and push me out into the river. And Steven's wife is going to grab a bow and an arrow that is flaming and shoot it right at the straw and just goes whoosh. And make sure you use diesel fuel because diesel fuel
So it
burns
doesn't
slower.
blow up.
Don't use gasoline because gasoline will blow up and I'll turn it into little bits. Don't do it, guys. Diesel fuel burns slower and it will make sure that it will fully incinerate me. And then ultimately the raft will fully incinerate. I'll turn to ash and just become part of the river. That's what I
See,
want.
That's beautiful.
that's a beautiful way to go.
I think I'm gonna just saddle up my horse and ride off in a direction, and at some point die and fall off of it. I don't know what. This just sounds like a good way to go.
Wait, you don't have a horse?
I'll get one.
Don't try to fool us.
It'll be fine. No, I wanna say bye to my family and be like, I'm leaving to die, and then I'm gonna ride my horse off into Montana somewhere. I don't know when I'm gonna be able to predict this, but maybe just when the
See,
adventure is through. That's what I'll do.
no, I've thought about that too. Like if something happens, like say I get cancer or something like that, where I know I've got a little bit of time, maybe a little bit of a chance. I'm gonna go somewhere and either live it up or like work out my ass off for weeks straight or something like. Either beat the virus by working it out, or I'm going to succumb to some sort of drug or something before it can kill me. I don't know. But I think that's also, and then turn me into a seed.
Okay, that's pretty good. I do like the seed
Circle of
idea.
life.
Yeah, if I can't be incinerated, I think the seed's a pretty fun idea. It'd also be fine if they used my body for science. I would be also okay with that because I'm a little narcissistic, and it'd be fine to have people like studying me all the time. I'd be like, you know what,
That'd be cool too. Yeah.
you use it. I'm done with it. Just you, as long as you
Figure
can,
out what went wrong with this one.
yeah, just poke it and prod it and figure out stuff, and I like to think that I could watch that happen and be like, look at what they're doing. That's so gross, and that would cheer me
Yeah.
up from being not here anymore. But let's get on to our section we didn't have time for last week, but I think we have time for it this week. Renaissance man, ladies and gentlemen, how tos and DIY tips from amateurs. We have no idea what we're doing for the most part. Well, some of us have no more than the others, but we are amateurs. We don't get paid to do these things, but we are going to share what knowledge we have with you and tips we can find. So. I don't know which one of you guys posted which one of these things. So,
Lando,
whoever
you
wants
go
to go.
first. I'll go second, and I need to go
Okay.
grab a prompt.
Yeah.
All right. Good timing. So let's talk about a victory garden. If you aren't familiar with a little thing called World War II, so back in the day, as far as I know, the last time the U.S. experienced like large scale ration, like kind of like we're thinking about now, all of a sudden everyone was like, "Oh shit, something's happening. I need to figure out how to grow my own." So a victory garden is meant to be something you can plant very quick, and depending on what you plant and how it's all coordinated, you could have a very small area grow a very large amount of food. So, in a nutshell, it's essentially just a collection of, depending on the type of year, or excuse me, depending on the season and where in the year you have certain types of plants, vegetables, whatever that grow in those conditions very rapidly. Idea being, if shit hits the fan, you can just basically go find a plot of soil, dig it up, start planting stuff, and hope for the best. So, in a nutshell, I'm going to just run through a quick list here of things you may want to consider for, excuse me, that grows very quickly and that would be perfect for this sort of situation where all of a sudden you may have to survive on your own. So, real quick, going through the list: baby carrots, broccoli, excuse me, some variety of broccoli, as well as some variety of cabbage, lettuces, kale, kohlrabi, whatever, leafy herbs, mustard, mizuna, okra, peas, radishes, spinach, spring onions, Swiss chard, turnips, and quick quickly growing vegetable varieties. Just that's the generic term, I guess. So those are 2 month crops.
Yeah.
3 month crop: beans, beets, broccoli, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, early potatoes, second early potatoes,
It's like Hobbit food.
eggplants. Yeah, second breakfast. Uh, onions, summer squash, tomatoes. So quick list there. That's 2 to 3 months worth of all sorts of cool stuff that you. Oh, excuse me. There's a 1 month here too: arugula, cilantro, mustard greens, radishes, beets, spinach, lamb lettuce, pak choi. Oh, cool, pak choi. Yeah, let's do that. And wintercress. So there you go. If you are curious how to actually begin planting things, I wish you luck. I don't have a green thumb. I grew up raising animals. I'm going to die of a heart attack if I end up surviving all of this, but at the very least, I will survive. Maybe not as long as the vegetable growers out there.
Well, so speaking of vegetable growers, I grew up on a 42-acre farm, and part of the farm had animals on it, and part of the farm had a nice, big, huge garden on it. So I'm familiar with
That's
growing
cool. Yeah.
a lot of things, whether it's okra, whether it's cabbage, whether it's beans, whether it's corn. It doesn't matter. I think we grew it. One of the things that we grew a lot of was peppers. We grew lots of
That
peppers,
peppers would be good. Yeah.
all different kinds of varieties of peppers, whether it's green peppers, whether bell peppers, whether it's red or yellow peppers, whether it's hot peppers, habanero peppers, poblano peppers. We've grown a lot of different peppers. So, what I want to show you is my seed starter kit. I'm going to try
Oh,
to get
cool.
this right in here.
Look at that. Yeah.
So, a couple of weeks ago, I decided to start my red chilies. I've also got ghost peppers going. I've got a couple other varieties of hot peppers.
Yeah.
But you can take an egg carton, which I did right here, poke a hole in the bottom, fill it with soil, and then add a couple of seeds to it. So now I've got a nice little egg crate with my soil and my starter
Well,
seeds.
look
And
at
so
that. With some
in a
happy
couple,
little plants.
I know, right? They did really well. So that's one way you can get started early while it's still cold right now. Go ahead and get your plants started. And then whenever it warms up, go in the back to your garden and actually start planting your garden. And if you're looking for chilies, whether it be hot chilies or whether it be chili pepper, bell peppers, or whatever kind of peppers you're looking for, there's an awesome resource called Chili Chump. If you've ever heard of him, he's got a ton of videos on YouTube. He makes a lot of different kinds of hot sauces with these peppers, but he's also got a really really great set of videos on how to set up seeds, how to set up a
That's cool.
garden, how to set up everything you need to be able to grow these things successfully. Let me see if I can't put that in the chat so that if anybody's interested in growing peppers, this is the guy that you want to go follow, and this is the guy you want to learn from. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, you can always ping me. And Steve, what is the email? It's staringatgoats@gmail.com.
Staring at Goats podcast at
Ah,
gmail.com. And we are, well, I'll talk about that at the end. Um,
yeah.
but yeah,
And I
no,
just
that's
real quick, I
awesome.
just put the link into the Victory Garden.
Sweet.
All
Awesome.
the, that'll have all the list of shit to grow.
Yeah, and the show notes are also available, anchor.fm/staring at goats. I'll try to get a short link to that as well to take you straight there. But we'll put all our show notes there. So if you're listening to this after the fact, you're like, I really want to see that, then ping us or go there and you can click all the links.
Yep.
Did either one of you guys want to talk about the game demic? Because this is pretty good.
The gain demic, that's a
Yeah.
Lando thing. I'm going to avoid that one like plague.
Okay. Don't worry, I got you covered. So we'll run through this one real quick. A
Yeah.
couple weeks ago, I was talking to a few of my consultant coworkers, and we were trying to figure out, so what do we do in this new post-pandemic world where we basically need to figure out how to continue doing our day-to-day thing within isolation. So the first thing that came up was obviously prison workouts. What else do you do? You're stuck in your house, you're stuck wherever. You got to do something. I have the convenience of at least having a little farm. We got a little bit of room to walk around and stuff like that. That said, I've still got limited options. So, what's really cool is a few days ago, Arnold Schwarzenegger even commented on this as well, talking about exercises you can do when you are just basically wherever you're at, regardless of where you are, what you've got. You can do, push-ups, dips between chairs, sit-ups, all that sort of stuff. But either way, the opportunity is really ours in this moment because we got nothing else to do. We might as well try to do something, get a little healthier in the process. Also, something to note, the healthier you are, the more physically fit, however you want to describe it, the better you are, excuse me, the better an immune response that your body can. So it's very important in this time to, try to be relatively healthy, keep your activity levels up, do stuff. Sorry, the doctor just chimed in and corrected me on one small thing. Unless you have a hyperimmune, that is apparently something to be concerned about. Don't let that happen. Either
Um,
way, it's important to think about how we can stay fit and stay active and try to get ourselves through this time of turbulence and tribulation.
tribulation.
This is great, man. I just actually kind of perused Governor Schwarzenegger's comment here. dude, this is why I like this guy. He's made an enormous amount of mistakes in a lifetime, but
Oh
my
yeah.
word is he not trying to make up for it with everything he's got in the face of the public eye. I've read his book, Total Recall. I recommend it to everybody. It's fantastic. But here's a guy doesn't have to be on Reddit posting about staying fit. Writes a really great letter, and this will be in the show notes about how we need to get through this together. Here's some ideas of ways you can do it. Not only that, didn't just post and leave. Replied to the comments, asked people had questions.
Yeah.
Like,
He always does. It's so cool.
it's wild.
And I totally agree. There's a lot of celebrities, public figures, whoever, that have done really bad things and have not done anything to even attempt to bother redeeming themselves. And then you have other people that have made clear and obvious mistakes. Mike Tyson,
Yeah.
I think, is a perfect example. Dude has made a lot of bad mistakes, and like a lot of bad mistakes. But he's been very open and vocal about how he's tried to improve himself, prevent doing anything like that ever again. And that's the mentality that people should have, especially going into something like an apocalypse. you know, Now's the time to really start practicing better morals, or just improving your general ethics and
Yeah.
how you conduct yourself around your friends and family or whoever. Just in general, trying to be a better person and trying to a model to those around you. I think, like I said, now's if you're not going to now, just we don't have any hope.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's get on to this crystal ball. We'll wrap it up with our life changes and predictions. How has our life already changed? How's it changing for the future? And share a prediction. If you guys don't care, I'll kick us off with how has
Yep.
life changed then in my observations. Not maybe my personal life, but the way I've seen it. I have noticed a great equalizer in this virus. Not to, I hesitate to always shine like this virus is helping us do stuff. This virus sucks balls. Like, let's not get over that. But there are things that are
Yeah.
coming out of it that I think are fascinating. One of those is the equalizer. I have watched some of my favorite musicians and artists playing living room shows on Facebook Live and other services, and it's blown my mind. I watched Jim Adkins from Jimmy Eat World do an acoustic set just on YouTube. They can't go play. They were supposed to be in Australia having a concert, and they can't. So instead, he's on an acoustic guitar playing a handful of Jimmy Eat World songs and messing up in a couple spots on a song that he hasn't played in
Yeah.
forever. And there's something pure in that ability to get out there, put yourself out there, lose all the sparkle, and just play music. Benjamin Gibbard from Death Cab for Cutie has done the same thing. He's been holding multiple concerts, taking recommendations and requests from people on Facebook and playing the songs. And it's he's raising money for charities while doing it, but he's just sitting in his home studio playing his guitar, singing songs. Lindsey Sterling giving violin lessons. What? Like, that's insane. Just free. Because, and I know a lot of this is their marketing. Like, they have to stay relevant and they have to stay in front of the public eye, and that's a real big piece of it. But there's if you can kind of separate it and not be cynical about it, like, it's also just a way to share something with the people. I mean, it takes a lot to share your own creative endeavor. Like, as we've written stories for multiple anthologies now, and it's hard to show people your work. I know these guys do it for a living, but at the same time, they're vulnerable out there just sitting on Twitch with a guitar singing. They're usually in front of a huge crowd where they've got their bandmates with them and all this stuff. So I found that really fascinating that the gods are being brought down to the human level. Anthony Hopkins is even doing it. He was playing piano with his cat. Like, these are people that you feel they're untouchable, and all of a sudden there they are in their living room doing weird crap like that. So that's fascinating to me. Future change. Personally, I want to remember and I want to keep in mind what this slowdown looks like for me. Slowing down, taking a breath, not being able to go out and spend money. Like, I'm not at Target once every weekend just poking around, looking at consumerism stuff that I don't need, thinking it's neat. Like, I haven't had that. I haven't been going out and going, oh, that's a neat little thing. Oh, look at that thing that might be cool to have someday. I'm just here trying to live and make sure we've got enough food and my kids entertained and we're having some fun. And we've come up with so many more home activities. I built a swing today out of nowhere. We have these ropes hanging from a tree, and I'm like, Sam likes to swing. I went out, I got a spare board, like a 2x or a 1x6, and I drilled holes in it, and I put a rope through it, and I made a swing. We have a swing in our front yard now.
Awesome.
Like, I didn't think, if without this, I might have thought,
You would never have done that.
would have never done it. For one, we wouldn't be out playing in the yard because we would be going somewhere. We're always busy. We're just busy family. We go places. And we're out playing in the yard, and I need a swing, and Home Depot is not a good place to go right now. So you do what you can, and now my kid has a swing I would have never used. And the prediction...
And now he has a swing he'll never use.
Now he'll use it a little bit. He's learning how to swing, and I'm like, we got to do hard things, buddy. You can do this. But as far as the prediction for the future, I think this is kind of a little bit separate from what I was talking about a second ago. But I think movies are likely to stick with this early Amazon Prime Cinema stuff they're doing. I have this feeling that they are going to see enough revenue out of this. They're going to, at the very least, experiment with it when movies come back online and the people can go to the theater to see, does it cannibalize movie theater audiences, or does it do they seem to balance out or even bring in more money? You're talking about $20 to rent a movie on Amazon that's in theaters. That $20, I could go spend that for two people to go to the theater or stay home and watch it. But I think a lot of people are still going to go see certain movies at the theater. Maybe we're at a world where...
always gonna be there.
Yeah, like maybe like talkie movies. Like, I mean, the Irishman is a good example. Ends up being something that stays on Netflix and stuff that goes there. But those big explosive tent poles, James Bond, Marvel movies, DC movies, action flicks. There's something to be said about being in a theater when you watch those. I think those survive. I hope theaters survive. I love a theater. It's like a sanctuary. It's my happy place. I want to go there again. But I'm betting that Amazon Prime Cinema, as just to use an example, sticks around.
And I hope so.
Yeah.
And I'll go next and let Landon finish off. And I really hope you're right. They're always going to have their place. And I believe that Netflix is always going to have its place. And I believe that some of these other streaming services are going to have their place. We just need to figure out exactly what it is.
Yeah.
How has my life changed? So last week I told you that my life was already, upside down with baby and tater tot coming. But this week, how my life changed a little bit was I started checking in on my neighbors a little, and I started learning things about my neighbors, things that I had never known, things that, I, learning them, all of a sudden, I have a greater appreciation for them as people. I met Jim and Pam, not the office Jim and Pam, but Jim and Pam. The road,
Oh, the
who are in
unfortunate
their
couple.
I know, right? Who are in their 80s, and I wanted we met them and we checked on them, and now every day we're talking about what do they need from the store. I'm going out. Let me go get you something, etc. Our neighbors right next door, they have one of them has a yoga studio that's pretty much shut down. The other's a contractor that lost her job. They have triplets, yes, triplets. And all three of them are the 17, 18-year-old age range. I can't remember exactly how old, but they all work over at Outback
Wait,
Steakhouse.
the
And
triplets aren't the same age?
they are. I just can't remember if it was 17 or 18. But they all work at Outback Steakhouse, and they all lost their jobs last week because obviously the restaurant shut down. So you've got a household of 5 people that are 3 kids that are 18 and 2 adults, and none of them have jobs right now, not a single soul. And so I listen to them, and they're unbelievably happy. Then they're upbeat and they're encouraged, and they're an encouraging family, and it's just refreshing to actually get to know the people that you're around, rather than dismissing the people that you're around. And I encourage anybody that's listening to this, if you haven't done that, especially in light of this circumstance, I encourage you to go do that. Not only to learn about your neighbors and who's around you, but also to find places where you can actually plug in and help, and find your Jim and Pam next door that may actually need help going to your groceries because they're afraid to even go out of their house right now. That's how my life has changed in the last week. Um, how is our life changing for the future? Um, it's crazy. I just got a letter from my the place I work. saying, you are essential personnel to a healthcare company and you need to be at work. I work 1 day a week at the office and 4 days a week at home right now. And anytime I go anywhere, I have to carry this letter with me because if I get pulled over, they're going to ask me what I'm doing out, and I have to show them this letter saying I'm going to work. Um, that's the kind of state that we're living in, guys. And whether you believe it or not, or whether you're dismissing it or not, it's real out there. And there are a lot of people that are taking this unbelievably seriously. So if you're not taking it seriously, I highly recommend that you do a little bit of research and see if maybe you could jump on board and take it a little more seriously. And then share a prediction. uh, I'm going to be doom and gloom here, man. It's going to get worse. It's going to get real bad when people start losing their jobs left and right. I think we're already seeing it in California, where we've lost millions of jobs here in the North Carolina area. I think yesterday the number was up to 155,000 in 3 days. We could be eclipsing 200,000 in 4 days. I don't know exactly what the numbers are today, but it's a lot. It's a lot, guys. Whenever we say job losses, it's immense. And I just this is going to hurt the economy for years to come. And I really don't want to see what's going to happen, but my prediction is it's going to take us a while to get back. And God willing, knock on wood, I hope I don't lose my job. But if I do, yeah, I'm going to have to make some pretty tough decisions. So that's kind of where I'm at with predictions and how my life's changed. A couple of positives and one a little more doom and gloom.
Yeah, ending on a very optimistic note there. I really enjoyed
I figured I'd pass it to you on the doom and
it.
gloom note.
Yeah. All right. I will take the baton from here. So, how has my life changed? Honestly, out here over the past week until let's say today's Wednesday, until Monday evening at 5 when the governor announced that we were finally going on lockdown. It hadn't changed. We were out shopping. No, excuse me, not us. People were out shopping. Chris and I tried to do very little going out anywhere over the past few weeks, at least close to a month now. But in general, anytime we just were out driving around, going to parks, and that's basically all we've done. We went to grocery stores, we went to the pharmacy twice, and we've gone to a shit ton of parks. Honestly, that's been kind of nice. How has excuse me, how's my life changed the most over the past 5 days since we did our last podcast? The parks have gotten a lot busier. That has how my life has changed the most. We live on Whidbey Island where we can be, man, 5-10 minutes max to get 3 or 4 places, or we could be 30 minutes from, and we can go out every day to a different place. But until probably yes, every time we went out, even at weird hours, people were out everywhere. It seemed like a vacation. So now I feel like things are finally setting in a little bit here. People, I guess, finally getting it, but we delayed that lockdown for so long that I am now worried. Chris is very. She said last weekend after, excuse me, in between the last time and now, where she worked a few shifts, things have started to get real at her hospital, and she's very concerned. And she has started to see some young patients come in and die, and that really sucks. So I guess, how has my life changed immediately? Here at our specific town and city and location, it hasn't too much until basically yesterday. And now finally things are slowing, and that makes me worry. So where do I see things going in the future at this very present moment in time? I think that I agree with Jacob that things are going to get real bad pretty quickly. I know a lot of other cities around the country are going to be in real bad shape in the next few days, if they're not already. New York and Atlanta are basically full. There are no ICU spots left, and the real crush is not even close there. Honestly, as bad as things are in those cities already, they're still a week, 2 weeks behind the rest of the big group of sick people that are about to hit. And I really do not envy anybody in the East Coast right now. It's just going to be a real bad situation. I will say out here, I have seen it's really cool actually. People are still, obviously chipping in, helping out, very willing to do anything they can to help anybody they know. but I have seen the local and state governments sort of continue to distance themselves from the how do you call it, disastrous policies that the federal government is pushing. And I feel like honestly out here it's going to be a completely different world from what's happening to the rest of the even San Francisco and LA that are going to be hit really hard. That's going to be nothing in comparison to what happens to New York, Detroit, Atlanta, Memphis, cities like that. Honestly, most of the just the Midwest and the East, it's just apparent how the social structure and things like that out here is really built to support this sort of thing. And I honestly think we're going to weather it pretty good. But from what I'm hearing for the rest of the country, man, it's going to suck. And I really hate that. Growing up on the East Coast and where all my family still is, I don't want that to happen. And especially as this thing starts to sweep through West Virginia, a country, or excuse me, a state and a population, what was it, 55 counties, pretty much everybody has worked in coal mines at some. There's going to be so many people that get hit really hard by this. So my what do you call it? My prediction is that the West Coast is going to get hit hard, and we're going to see a lot of major issues out here, but it's going to be a drop in the bucket compared to the rest of the country. I hope that's not the case. I mean, obviously we're all in this together, but man, the social policies and economic policies are night and day different, and it's people out here have options that the rest of the country don't, and it really sucks. So my long-term prediction is healthcare and economic policies are going to see a major swing in the past, excuse me, in the next 3 6 months or so, as people start to die or look at bankrupt. It sucks, kind of doom and gloom, like Jacob was saying. But it's not all bad. I think that going forward, I've seen so many people changing and trying to better themselves and the world around. That's my big takeaway. Even through all the doom and gloom, sure, we may not have an economy, half the country may be dead, but those of us that are left, I think, are going to understand how the world works on a better level and be more cooperative and more compassionate. I see that happening already. I hope it doesn't take something major to continue that push,
Yeah,
but
I
we'll see.
appreciate that. I appreciate what you said there because I'm thinking like of terms of major life changing events. Our generation really hasn't had them. I mean, we had 9/11, but that was still that was
Man, drop in
intense.
the bucket compared to the past few days, much less. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to minimize it by any means, but like that was a big change. But even that didn't touch it touched a lot of people in our generation. But I think this is like a lot of where we are is mid 30s now. Families, economics, the economy matters to us now. Back then, we were like high school, early college, whatever. Um, I
yeah,
think I think that this is this is our moment to do well or don't. You know, it's like World War II, the greatest generation. They had a chance to sit on the sidelines or get in the fight, and
they
um,
stepped up. It's that
yeah,
simple.
they stepped up, and
Yep.
we have to figure out what our stepping up looks like. And I think the altruism is the where I want it to be. I want it to be
Yeah.
that we step up and we help our fellow man. We try to grow those gardens that all us hipsters have been trying to grow. You know, like we grow those gardens. We share with our neighbors. We work through this. You know, screw the government. I'm not going to wait for them. Let's see what we can do to help each other now, to teach each other. Stephanie was pushing for disaster training last year. Her big goal for the year was for all of us to learn
Oh
something
my
important.
God. Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, you're going to this year.
yeah. She was like, everybody, we need Jacob. We need you to teach us how to hunt, and Doc needs to teach us how to load guns and do this, and Steven needs to get his ham radio license and all this stuff. We didn't do jack. We didn't do any of those
Yeah.
things, and now I'm not filled with nothing but regret over it because I'm like,
Yeah. No
whatever.
one expects the global pandemic, though. Don't
Yeah.
blame yourselves.
So, and to follow up on that statement, Stephen, because I really do. It was a great idea by your wife, and I wish we would have followed up on it a little bit more. But that doesn't mean that you can't start now.
Yes, yeah, sure,
You
very
could
true.
still start now, and you can start in small ways, whether it's growing seeds or
Hmm.
whether it's making sure that you have enough distilled water on hand for formula or distilled water for a CPAP machine,
Yeah.
and making sure that you can make it for 2 or 3 months with non-perishable foods. And
Yeah.
there are things that you can start doing. You can still take courses, whether it's online courses or whatever kind of training that you want, and whether it's friend to friend. Ask a friend to show you how to do something. Don't be so proud that you don't know how to do something. Don't ask.
Jesus,
Just
yes.
go ask
Yeah.
somebody. If you
That's
need to
been
learn
me
how
the
to shoot,
past few weeks.
yeah, if you need to learn how to shoot a handgun, go to a buddy of yours and say, "Hey, I know that you've done this before. What's your thoughts? What are your recommendations? How can you help me?" Um, do it.
Yeah.
It's
Suddenly,
not
I'm
too late
glad
to
I
start.
grew up in West Virginia. Holy shit.
Yeah, I should have stuck it out with the Cub Scouts back in kindergarten. Maybe I would have learned something.
Eagle Scout
Yeah.
Steven.
Right, that would be pretty great. But no, man, hey, it's been wonderful talking to you guys about this again. This is a fun show. I think we're getting our feet under us. I think we're working some kinks out. We're finding out where our voice is. And I hope that the audience, I hope you guys are enjoying it too and getting what you want out of it. And sorry for the live stream and all the flakiness we've had, but this is going to sound great in audio form when you get it on anchor.fm/staring at goats. We're being distributed now to all the different platforms, so you'll be able to find us on Google Play Podcast. I think we're there now. I got an email earlier in the day just talking about all the different places we were. And so just go wherever you are. We're being distributed. So it'll take some time, but we'll get there. But yeah, we don't have any mail this week. If you want to send us mail, your thoughts, disagreements, agreements, ideas, where you're at, how you're feeling. I would love to get some stories about your experience. It doesn't have to be a major impacting thing. I don't need you to have lost your job to write in. Just write about what you're seeing in your environment. We're only in 3 places. I know we've got listeners in Philly. I know we've got listeners in Atlanta. I know we've got listeners in Texas. I would love to get all that from you. So go to send your email to staringatgoatspodcast@gmail.com. Fill us in. We'd love to read those live on the show. If you do get this podcast downloaded from a service, give us 5 stars. If that service has a rating system, 5 stars is huge. We're brand new. That gives us a little bit traction that other shows don't, that our other shows don't have, because they've been running for 5 million episodes.
We are happening in the moment, folks.
Right, we're in the moment.
It's different every day.
Absolutely. If you enjoyed the conversation and you're here and you like it, you can always tip us. You can go to twodorks.net/tip to throw a buck in the jar to help us support the show and all the cost of the hosting and stuff. But man, thank you guys for being here. Jacob, Lando, thank you for spending your evening chit-chatting about this. And I look forward to our continued conversations on Staring at Goats. That's it, gentlemen. We did a show.
All right.
Yeah, he did
That's
a
good.
show.
Nice.
That was good.
This had a much smoother progression to it. I think we need to just start pinning it down and get a real smooth formula to it. But
Yeah,
this was great. I love this. I want to keep doing this every week,
this was
or
better.
or more. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
this had more cohesion to it. I like this.
Yeah, this one had
This is
one
the
was
way.
better.